You mentioned that this campaign is a constitutional challenge. What do you mean by that?
Canada has a constitution, as many countries do. Our constitution was patriated in 1982, and at that time, the Canadian Charter was created. What the Canadian Charter did was it allows us, including the rest of the constitution, a sort of code of conduct for our government. We can bring constitutional challenges to the court when we think that our government has stepped out of line, which in this case we do. It's ironic because public sentiment right now is waning against our Prime Minister, but it was actually his father who empowered us with the tools necessary to bring about a constitutional challenge. Before 1982, it was not actually possible to bring one. The way our system works in a constitutional parliamentary democracy is our system is divided up into three separate components. An executive, which is the people who operate the levers and knobs of government. The legislative branch, which comes up with the rules that determine what people can and cannot do, including government. And then there is the judiciary, which makes up our courts. The executive and the legislative branches of our system are different than the judiciary in the sense that they can act of their own volition. The executive can start doing something or stop doing something, certain things if it chooses to. And the legislative branch can also start the process to do certain things. It can table pieces of legislation, it can decide how money ought to be spent and so on. But the judiciary cannot do anything on its own unless it's prompted with a question. In other words, someone has to bring a claim before a judge and the judge adjudicates on that. In the case of a constitutional challenge, what it allows us to do is have a court decide whether or not a government has stepped out of line. And there's a reason why we have that separation of powers. It's something like a ship as well. A ship has bulkheads, and in the event that a ship hits a reef, you have safeguards in place to ensure that the entire ship doesn't sink. So one particular branch of the system doesn't end up sinking the entire ship, and that's why we have the judiciary.